Hey, my name is Zachary, and I'm interested in learning and creating new ways to appreciate art. This has been a lifelong interest of mine. I remember reading books on how to create art just so I could learn the details of how it's created and I can appreciate it more clearly. Um, so that's just my starting point. With this talk, I want to go over a few ways of how to evaluate works of art, or as we'll see later, it's more about evaluating beauty. And this is coming from a lens of critical rationalism and more broadly, the views of David Deutsch and related thinkers. My motivation here is that I recently came into contact with the work of David Deutsch. Specifically, I watched the lecture on flowers. Why are flowers beautiful? I watched this year, January 8th, 2025. And he spoke about the infinite growth of beauty, and that was extremely appealing to me. So I wanted to learn more. I decided to learn more about David Deutsch's worldview just so I could understand that lecture, about all his books and all that stuff. Now I've been exposed to David Deutsch's constructor theory and Popper's epistemology and the rest of the four strands. And I want to create more clarity for how those can apply to beauty and art and aesthetics. So while you may care about this, our deepest explanations really should have reach into surprising fields. Most of us here will be interested in epistemology, physics, evolution, and computation. These should all have some type of application to aesthetics. I found that applying Popper's epistemology and David Deutsch's constructor theory reveals some new ways of seeing art and new ways to understand and new ways to evaluate art. And I think these have personally enriched my life. So I want to start with a focus on beauty. Let's clarify first what I mean by beauty. I think this is kind of a foundational shift in how I thought about things. The beauty is knowledge that is embodied in a work of art. So personally for me, when I used to think about aesthetics and art and things, I would always look at the level of the work of art. And I would think of that, the work of art, as being beautiful. But I think that was really a mistake. It's akin of looking at a technology, like looking at a phone and thinking whether or not the phone is knowledgeable. But really, it makes more sense usually to look at the components within the phone and say that those components contain knowledge. So in the same way, I want to look at the level of the knowledge within the work of art. So we'll go through some conceptions to make that make more sense. And I'll show how they all different conceptions of knowledge and show how they fit within aesthetics. So our first conception, pretty basic, is that knowledge is a solution to a problem. And that translates to beauty being a aesthetic solution to an aesthetic problem, right? So for a very simple example, if I have a movie, I want to start my movie. And there's a problem there. How do I start my movie? There are better and worse ways of doing that. There are better and worse ways of starting a movie. So I may decide that I want to start my movie by catching the attention of the audience, and I want to introduce the themes of the entire movie, and I want to introduce the characters of the movie. That is a solution that solves the problem. It also solves other problems within the work of art. So that structure would be beauty. Does that make some sense? Another conception of beauty, or another conception of knowledge, would be that knowledge reliably transforms the world, and that translates to beauty reliably transforms the world. Beauty is an abstract constructor, so it can reliably make itself persist, and it can reliably attract someone's attention, or maybe it can reliably trigger emotions, things like that. And beauty is abstract, so the same beauty should be able to be within multiple different works of art. Another conception of knowledge is that knowledge is information that persists through entropy. That translates to beauty being information that persists through entropy. Now, no one has said this before. I don't think this is, my own formulation, but it should make sense when I describe it. It's a combination of a couple of things. So let's take a hypothetical. If we take a work of art and we put it through a entropy machine, this just means that the machine is going to let us see the work of art through time, let us see the work of art through space, let us see the work of art in different contexts, different audiences, different mediums, perhaps even different universes. If we look at a work of art and we flip through all the different iterations of it, possibly through universes, we'll see things like the colors change slightly. We might see things like details adjusting, the position of certain things moving around. Anything that isn't there for a specific reason that is grounded in reality is going to be subject to change. Anything that is based on subjective standards is also going to be subject to change across time, across universes, right? But there's going to be some parts of the work that are persistent. And those persistent parts, I'm going to call that knowledge. And I'm going to call the knowledge within a work of art to be beauty. So I know there are a lot of different ways that David and Chiara and Carl have all talked about knowledge. They're different conceptions. So that's why I have so many different formulations here. They're all related. And for our purposes, they can all be seen as different ways to evaluate or criticize beauty. That was not meant to be a comprehensive list or anything. It just kind of gives you an idea. So beauty is actually no different from any other knowledge. Beauty has the ability to make itself persistent. It has reach into different contexts. It can cause reliable transformations in the world. It must be created through trial and error. I didn't really say that, but you get that why that would be the case. It can be replicated. So it's abstract and it can be replicated, and it can be replicated in your mind specifically so that you can understand it or so that you can appreciate it. And most importantly, I think beauty and the appreciation of beauty can be independently improved. So that leads us into the growth of beauty. What does it mean for beauty to improve? So I think beauty grows when we remove errors, same way that knowledge grows. And this is another way of saying that you adjust the beauty such that it fits into more contexts, right? Beauty is a structure that will persist in some range of contexts. Remember the entropy machine? And then beauty grows when you adjust the structure to be more resilient, such that it works in all the contexts previously and more contexts. I might even say that this is a way to falsify the previous beauty. Now, I really don't like that language. There's probably something better, a different way of thinking about it, a better language to have there, but that's just what I'm working with now. So I think it's actually impossible to have some beauty that will fit into every single context, in the same way that it would be impossible to have knowledge that applies to all contexts and accurately describes everything in all contexts. So you can't do that. But as beauty grows, and also as beauty grows and knowledge grows, more contexts become revealed so that there creates more places for something to fail, right? So this is kind of the case of new solutions create new and better problems, which I think this allows for a framework to falsify beauty and say that something was wrong previously and we have a new beautiful solution that's more beautiful and better. And it also allows for the infinite growth of beauty. Okay, so those are some ways that viewing aesthetics through the lens of David Deutsch's philosophy can reveal some unique ways of evaluating beauty and art. And I know there's so much more to explore in this field. It's something that's very interesting to me. But thank you very much for listening. I'm open for questions.